Good morning.
Hello, is that Lonnie Liston Smith?
Yeah, how you doing, Doug?
Hello.
All right.
Can I say, first of all, on the behalf of all my listeners on Sound Fusion Radio, what a privilege it is to talk to a legend, an absolute legend over here in the UK.
Oh, man, yeah, the UK, that's one of my favorite places.
Well, what can we say over here? I think you graced us with your presence back in 1980 at the Nebworth National Soul Day, and I think you were taken to our hearts from that moment onwards.
Oh, great, fantastic, all right.
Yeah, I'd say I remember that concert well, very, very well.
Oh, all right, yeah, okay.
A long time back, 1980. Oh well, where can I start with you? Because I say it's an absolute privilege for me to be talking to you. Because if you to mention jazz funk over here in the UK, the first things you get is Lonnie Liston Smith expansions, Roy Ayers Running Away, Donald Byrd Dominoes, Herbie Hancock I Bet You Love, and they're probably the greatest tracks that we have ever heard over here in the UK.
Oh, all right, I got to. Okay, well, which one by Herbie Hancock?
I Bet Your Love.
Bet Your Love? Okay, I'm gonna go to YouTube after we get off and check that out. Okay.
All right. I'll first start with you, Lonnie. I want to really know a little bit about your history, your background, and obviously your upbringing.
Oh, well, I come from a musical family because my father was a part of the Harmonizing Four, which was a very famous gospel group, and they travel all over the world, performing gospel music. And but the one thing about my father, he liked all types of music. So we could sit down and talk about any type of music, because a lot of people in gospel didn't appreciate all the different types of beautiful music, but my father, he did. So we sit down, we listen to everybody, Duke Ellington, or one of his favorite bands was Fletcher Henderson, and so that was great. So I just grew up in a musical family and met all the gospel groups when we were little kids, because gospel groups they had their own festivals also. And so the Harmonizing Four was based in Richmond, Virginia. So they would bring in Sam Cooke, was it the Soul Stirrers then, Dixie Hummingbirds. The Blind Boys, they famous now, but they would all come through. And then they would go to another city. Whoever lived in that city, they would bring the basic same group. So I just grew up in music from day one.
So your dad was influenced you into listening to a bit of jazz as well, then?
Oh yeah. Oh no, he loved good music and good harmony, and so it didn't matter. So we could listen to any type of music and talk to him about it, and that was great.
I see one of the instruments you took up as a child was the tuba. Wasn't that a bit heavy for a young child?
Look here, Doug. That was, in the house we had a piano, so we all kind of took piano lessons, and my father played the 4-string guitar. But then when I got to school, I wanted to be in the band, and my two younger brothers inherited my father's beautiful tenor voice. But I always sang bass, so I just wanted to be in the band, the choir. But when I got to the band, everybody wanted to play saxophone and trumpet. So the band leader said, well, no, I need some tuba players, right away. So whoever can learn to play the tuba. So I said, shoot, I want to be in the band. So, I started learning how to play the tuba. But back then, like you said, the tubas today, they're light. But back then, those were real tubas, and they were extremely heavy. And so, but it didn't matter. I just wanted to be in the marching band. So, it was fun.
Yeah, it's funny saying that. I recently saw a marching band here where I live, and they came in through this door, and the tuba player had to duck to get through the door. It was hilarious.
That's it. People don't realize. There's the tuba player. He has to be very careful. like respected. Well, you observed it.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine. He always said he took up the bass guitar because it was one of the lightest instruments to carry around.
Okay.
So, going back to your passing, how did you actually meet up with the jazz bebop greats? People like Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis, John Coltrane. Because obviously, I know you hang out with all those guys back in the day.
Yeah. Well, what happened, Doug? When I was in high school, I heard this record because all before that, we were doing, R&B. We'd all sing. That's true, but people, you sing on the corner at night, where you live, and you'd be out there just singing, having fun, and they called it doo-wop back then.
Yeah.
And so, but when I was over someone's house, and I heard this record. I couldn't believe it. I said, "Man, what is that?" They said, "That's Charlie Parker, playing jazz improvisation." I said, "Oh man, it was so beautiful." I said, "Well, that's what I want to do," and that's when I started, trying to learn about jazz. Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Miles, Duke, Oscar Peterson, all the great. And then I went to Morgan State University in Baltimore, and so was constantly learning more about jazz and improvisation because that's the main thing about jazz.
Yeah.
And then when I got to New York, you start sitting in with different people, and then your name starts spreading around. Then I get a call from, say, the first one was Rahsaan Roland Kirk, a whole lot of singers like Betty Carter, because I met her in Baltimore. And for some reason, all pianists, when they got to New York, Betty Carter would find them. I don't know how. And but she was great because she was more like a horn player, the way she approached singing. And so then eventually I got with Rahsaan Roland Kirk. I recorded 2 records. Then eventually Art Blakely and the Jazz Messengers. And when I was with Art Blakely, that's when you start meeting everybody because Monk would come down and, to hang out with Art because, they all grew up together. So then I got a chance to meet Monk and hang out with him. Then I got the gig with Max Roach. And then he introduced me to everyone. And so it just, you get a chance to hang out with, I wanted to play with all the artists, all the masters. So I got a chance to play with most of all of them and hang out with them. And, that's very important.
That must have been absolutely amazing times for you. You must have been quite in awe, actually going along and playing with these guys.
Oh yeah, because those guys you've been listening to, and then but then when you got around them, you found out that they were some just very great human beings, and they love music just as much as you did. Mm. And then of course when the last one was with Miles Davis, and when you study the history. Everyone that played with Miles Davis, when they left Miles Davis, they formed their own group. Because Miles was such a genius on stage and off stage. So that always happened with every all the leaders you listen to today basically came out of Miles Davis.
Yeah, because Miles was completely ahead of his time there, wasn't he?
That was it, Doug. I mean that's I'm glad you recognize that because people don't realize that. Because when Bridges Brew came out, now they're giving it the credit that it should have gotten. But but people are really upset because they have been following Miles since the beginning. But they didn't realize because when I didn't realize until I started working with Miles and I started listening to Miles, real closely. And I said, wow, Miles is still playing the same way that Miles plays, but everything else around him had changed. He was one of the first to use Indian musicians, the tabla, the sitar, guitar, the Western guitar, drums, and kungas. He had all this. I mean, he really had a universal band. But people got so upset, but they didn't realize Miles was still playing the way Miles played. But like you say, he was just ahead of his time.
Yeah, because I watched a program on TV quite recently. It was a Public Service America broadcast all about jazz and the history of jazz, and I actually got quite frustrated because they went up to 1967, and obviously when Miles and everything was really, really starting to get into the innovation with bringing in different instruments and like the electric guitars and everything like that into it, and they literally stopped there as if almost jazz had finished, and that was it. And I was like, no, come on, the innovation that Miles Davis brought in, bringing in influences from all around the world and different bits, and you know, I'm thinking, oh no, you can't stop it there. That's what jazz is about. It's innovation. It's about moving forward, taking influences from other things.
That's a good word, innovation. That's what jazz really is, and people don't realize that, and even Weather Report, Return to Forever. All those groups, I don't care, that you want to name, they came out of Miles Davis' group because they all were on Bitches Brew.
Yeah.
And, John McLaughlin, all of them, and when they left, they formed Weather Report. Wayne Shorter and Joe Zawinul was on that same record. They formed, they formed Weather Report, and I forgot what John McLaughlin, he formed the group, I forget the name of the group he formed, but they were humongous. And then Tony Williams, he was ahead of his time. He did Lifetime with the great organist that was on there. And John McLaughlin was in Lifetime. So and a lot of times they stop on purpose. That they just don't want to deal with it. But you can't be like that because the key word is innovation, and that's what keeps you going.
Yeah, that's right. And as I say, with Miles Davis, as I said, the fact that he was, to me, was the top, the key, one of the ones that started what I would call the jazz fusion movement.
Right.
As obviously over here we call it jazz funk.
Oh, right, that was it. But the thing is, when I was working with Miles had all these things hooked up to his trumpet, all these pedals. So before I did expansions, I said, let me hook up these pedals to the Fender Rhodes, and Doug, it worked. I mean, when expansions came out, it just took the world by storm. But I got the idea of hooking the pedals up to the Fender Rhodes from watching Miles on stage. He had these pedals hooked up to his trumpet.
Yeah. And I say in the early 70s, you worked with people like Pharoah Sanders and Gato Barberi.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was when Pharoah Sanders. That was very interesting because we were really playing creative music and doing improvisation right on the spot. Because Pharoah, I heard Pharoah. He was kind of like he was playing more than one note, which is supposed to be impossible on a tenor. And I was trying to get more sound out of the piano. So, you only had 10 fingers, so sometimes I would use my forearms, but not banging, just trying to get more sound. And then we heard Leon Thomas yodeling, and he said, uh-oh. So we got together, and the first record was Karma, and that just took off. And so we would go on stage, and we would just play. Pharoah would start something, or I would start something, and then we'd go from that. But the thing I try to remind Pharoah said, although we're gonna go way out and just expand the sound and go out as far as we can, but always bring it back. Because if people are listening, you just don't want to leave them out there hanging in space. So I always try to bring it back. And then when we another thing, man, I never played Fender Rhodes before until we got to the record Femby, and we was out in California, and people should go out and buy the record Femby by Pharoah Sanders, and they will hear me play the Fender Rhodes electric piano for the very first time because we were in the studio, and a grand piano, I don't have anything to do. I just had to wait till Pharoah unpack his horns, and Cecil McBee was on bass. He was unpacking his bass, his upright bass, and so I saw the Fender Rhodes sitting in the corner, and I asked the engineer, I said, what is that? He said, that's a Fender Rhodes. I said, wow, I never played one. So I went over, start playing with it, messing with the knobs. And then out of nowhere, this song just came to me, and everybody ran over. Engineer, Pharaoh, musicians said, "Man, what is that?" I said, "This is a song I'm writing." They said, "Man, we have to do that. We have to record that right now." And they said, "What you gonna call it?" So I sounded like we were floating through space, and I'd been studying astral projections, where you just go all over the universe. So I said, "Okay, let's call it astral traveling," and it worked. It turned out to be a 21st century 12-bar cosmic blues. So, and then, after that, Gato heard me playing with Pharaoh, and he was Bob Field, because Bob Field, he recorded Karma, with Pharaoh. And then Bob Field heard Gato, and he said, Gato said, "Lonnie, I want you to do this record with me." I said, "Okay." He said, "Bob Field's going to produce it." I said, "Okay, Flying Dutchman Records." And because everybody was on Flying Dutchman, the Pharaoh, Leon Thomas did his first record on Flying Dutchman, Gil Scott Hearn, everybody. So then I started traveling all over the world with Gato, and so one thing just led to another.
So when Astral Travel came out, because was it 1973?
I think so. It was on the record Thimby. That was the first time I touched it, and I wrote that song, and then we recorded it right down the spot.
Mm. So then that was when you formed Cosmic Echoes, wasn't it? Back then.
Right. That was right after. Cause I think I did a couple of years with Miles, and then after when I was working with Miles, Bob Field called and said, "Lonnie, everybody's talking about you all over the world. So you got to do your own record." So I said, "Okay, I'll just do the record, and then I can say Lonnie Liston Smith has his own record deal." But I wanted to stay with Miles. And so about 6 months later, Bob Field called me and said, "Lonnie, you got to put a band together because you got to support this record." I said, "Bob, I'm not leaving Miles." And, that was, working with Miles that was it. But then I told Miles the story. He just laughed because, he knew the business backwards. And he said, "Well, you shouldn't have did the record." So, and that's what happened. So then I did leave Miles and form the group. And we did, After Traveling was the first one, Cosmic Funk was the second. But when Expansions came out, it just took off worldwide. And I guess that really then I really started traveling.
Yeah, because what was the members of your band back then in Cosmic Echoes? Well,
I get in the band then,
Yeah, when you first started.
Well, I had my younger brother Donald. I told you that Donald had that beautiful tenor voice like my father, and so I remember that voice. So I said, "Oh, okay." So I called Donald because I started writing lyrics. First time I wrote lyrics was Expansions, and then it was a tenor player. We went to Morgan together, but I hadn't seen him in years, Dave Hubbard, and I always remembered his sound. And the drummer and bass player kind of changed, but Donald and David were there for a long time. And then we just, it just worked, and we just started traveling.
So you've got a little bit of a history of discovering talent in your band anyway, haven't you, I gather? Because from 1978, Space Princess came out, which was my first 12-inch single I bought of yours. And there was it was written by a very young man, who's come on to be an absolute bass legend.
Doug, that was because I remember I used to sit down and talk to Miles, and he's always said that, he always, because he hired Tony Williams when he was 16, and, because you can hear the potential. So I was over somewhere jamming one day in Queens, New York, and I don't know how it happened, and we were just jamming. So the bass player, I said, "Wow, this little kid sure sounds great." And he was, he had his head all turned around, how the kids do. But after we finished jamming, he put the bass down, walked over to the piano and said, "Hey," he said, I got a song I think you like." So I'm looking at this little kid, and I said, "Oh, shoot." I said, "Okay." Start playing it, and then he played doom, 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 doom. I said, "Uh-oh." And then and Journey into Love, and he had lyrics. I said, "What?" So I took him into the studio. It was Marcus Miller.
Yeah,
So
the great Marcus Miller.
That's right. So I took him into the studio, and Columbia went crazy. You bringing this kid in here? And after we played a couple of songs, and all of a sudden Columbia pulled him over in the corner. I said, "Oh, okay, I see how this thing works now." And like you said, the rest is history, man. But you know, you got a lot of people can't recognize talent, but I always could. To just, you know, Miles could do it too. You know, you when you hear someone, whether they're 15, 16, you can hear and you can hear the future. So that was it.
Yeah, because I recently saw Marcus Miller at the Love Supreme Festival over here in the UK, and the way he throws that bass guitar around, unbelievable.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, he plays the bass and he plays the keyboards, and he knows how to write these songs, and people don't realize that he's wrote a lot of hits for what was it, a lot of singers. So it's just amazing.
Yeah, because Space Princess, again, that was quite a groundbreaking record because it really broke you through in the dance scene over here in the UK. Oh
yeah, because I got a female vocalist now, so we're gonna put it back in the repertoire because I didn't realize people really requested it, and so before I come back over next time, we got to get Space Princess. And I think Mardi Gras, because I didn't realize they told me they were dancing to Mardi Gras. I said, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And so I got to put this back, all these back into the repertoire. And it's just amazing because Space Princess, Bert Dickinson put the strings on it. Because I was on Columbia, he was the producer, and Marcus wrote it. But we wanted to keep the jazz in there, but keep that disco beat also. And from talking from you and other people in the UK, I mean, it really worked.
Yeah, because that was the track that made me then go back, and obviously then I discovered the greatest record of all, Expansions, and that absolutely blew me away. First. Sorry?
You heard Space Princess first, and then you discovered Expansions.
Yeah, that's right. It made me go back and look your stuff up, and Expansions. Oh, wow. And that was absolutely amazing. That was a bit of an experience, that was.
Okay, now isn't that something? And just like today, the kids are hearing sampling, and then they go back and they discover Expansions and things like that. So it's amazing. Well, that's great.
Yeah, I think so. With myself and everything, I got into top of jazz through listening to the jazz fusion movement in the top of mid-70s, and then that made me go back and start listening to people like Charlie Parker, Mingus, and Monk, and everything. So yeah, as I say, it's a way into it.
That's great. Well, that's what I wanted the music to do, because you need to know the history of it, and because like Miles used to always say, people used to say, Miles, you sound great, but Miles said, I'm just tooting the blues, and people don't realize the blues and gospel came first. So, and then we just kept going because we wanted to say, man, got to be something else besides what they're doing. So then that's where that innovation comes in.
Yeah, that's correct. It's funny, I've got a little quote I had, which I read in a Quincy Jones's biography, and it's basically saying from do what barbershop to gospel, everything involves and that. It's a lovely quote I've got here, and I always look at that and think, yeah, that's music,
That's it. Yeah, you're right, Doug. That's great.
What do you think about today's artists? Because I recently interviewed Gregory Porter, who's one of the new up-and-coming guys, and it's so nice to hear that, jazz back again. It's so good, the stuff that's coming out at the moment. Yeah,
well, that's because I just discovered Gregory Porter, and because I saw a lot, some people sent me some MP3s when I was over in London. And I like what he's doing because he kind of reminds me of, in a way, of Leon Thomas, and so he's definitely on the right track, and I'm glad it's working for him because the people are really excited over him. So I think when they listen to him, then they can go out and probably gonna go back and check out, all them other, great singers, Billy Eckstine or everyone else, and, and get back to the beginning.
Yeah, because he's recently signed to obviously one of the majors, Blue Note Records, and he was saying to me that Blue Note were really good on his last LP. They just said, no, just be Gregory Porter, just do what you're doing. And I think a lot of trouble with a lot of records that have come out over recent times, it's been the record company dictating to the artist what should be played rather than the other way around.
Well, yeah, that's a great point, because that was a great thing about Bob Thiel. He had the same attitude, because he produced John Coltrane records, and he would just say, look, you go in the studio and do, you be the artist and do what you're supposed to be doing. And what happened was, all of a sudden, the record label started dictating, and they don't realize that's not real music. You have to let the artist be him or herself. And even the radio, cause I remember years ago when I used to come over, I guess when Expansions first came out, and you had all these great DJs on the radio, and each show was different. But like now, a lot of these companies started buying up radio stations. The music is programmed. You hear the same thing every 3 or 4 hours. So I hope, like you said, we can get back to the original way, it all started, and let everybody be free to be themselves, and then that's going to make the universe much better.
I think that's the trouble, isn't it? A lot of things have become very, very plastic, and it's nice that there are artists out there who are now starting to come through. A lot of young jazz artists that are starting to come through. People like Tashiana Mayfield, Gregory Porter. Over here we got people like Snarky Puppet, and there's some great bands starting to come out.
Okay, maybe one day. Or you can check my Anna. You can send me email me some MP3s of some of the new artists that you like, so I can get more familiar also.
Yeah, I will do so. I will definitely do that to you.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, to say is the scene over here in the UK is very, very healthy at the moment. We've got a lot of new bands coming out over here playing a lot of jazz. We've got some really good radio stations now who are promoting new artists, new jazz and soul. So it's good. It's really, really good, and it's lovely to have that, But it's brilliant. So I want to go back to 1980. And I'd like to say Song for the Children. Now, again, It's another one of the songs, like Expansions. Again, a lot of records these days don't seem to have social comment, but your records had social comment.
Yeah, well, I always wanted that, because that's why I started writing lyrics, although Marcus wrote Space Princess and Song for the Children. And so, because I always told Marcus I wanted some very positive lyrics, and because then the people can listen to these positive lyrics, and on the bottom, we put the funk so they can dance, but at the same time they're listening to very positive lyrics, and then when we in the middle we can solo. We're still doing jazz and improvisation, and so we try to give them all three, and because people recently I was on tour. I just got back, I think, September 8th. I was over there for about 3 weeks, and we did Jazz Cafe in London, and we went to Manchester, everywhere. But each night we would do the song. I was telling people that I've been watching TV. I see we might be starting some craziness again, with war and stuff like that. So I hope the whole world listens to this next song, and I would say it's called or entitled "Give Peace a Chance." And the audience would just go crazy even before we start playing the song, and that's important because people have to realize if we don't try to work together universally, we're just going to destroy each other and won't nothing be left.
Yeah. As I say, well, it's the quote from Marvin Gaye, isn't it? Lonnie Liston can conquer hate. Sorry. And that's true because man, people don't realize. Marvin should have, for that song, for that album, What's Going On, he should have received 100 Grammys. But like you say, from talking to you and other people, I see a lot of people are listening, so
So I feel great about the future.
Yeah, and that LP we nearly didn't quite get it, did we? Because Berry Gordy wanted to shelve it.
Now, isn't that something?
Oh no, amazing! Probably the greatest soul LP ever. Well, it is the greatest soul LP ever in my mind. It's my top soul record.
Oh, I mean, it had everything. I mean, it was amazing, Doc.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant! Absolutely amazing track. Yeah, but they say back in 1980, you came over and paid us your first visit, and I think I said to you right at the beginning of the show, the Nebworth National Soul Day, and which we had at Nebworth Park, and it was in a tent, and I always remember that, hearing "Song for the Children" actually echoing out of the speakers there, and it was just absolutely amazing. And I think there was about 15,000 people there, and just went crazy for it.
Goodness.
And I remember there, and that particular show, GQ were on there with you, and their drummer had broken his arm, and your drummer, if I remember his name right, was it Lino Rise?
Lino.
He stepped in and played their session for them, drumming for them.
Okay, that's great. Wow, yeah, because Lino was. He was one of the talented drummers. He ended up with that boy in Buffalo. I forget his name. What is that? Bustin' Loose. No, he came we know him.
Yeah. I know you mean. Oh,
yeah, and he married that actress. Well, they were living together, but Lino was talented.
Yeah. Well, saying about talented drummers, I recently saw you at Ronnie Scott's back in February, and you got a young drummer there, and now my jaw hit the floor. Absolutely hit the floor when he did that drum solo, and he was playing backwards. He was flipping the sticks over his head. I was just like, wow.
Hey, he was one of the reasons I met him when he was in his around 23, 24, I guess. And we were doing the Jazz Fusion All-Stars, with myself, who's that? Ronnie Laws, Roy Ayers, Wayne Henderson from the Crusaders, Gene Kahn, and so he was the drummer. And I said, "Oh, this." So I heard him. I said, "Oh, okay. You want to play some music?" So then he started telling me about all these young musicians. Because for a while there, I thought a lot of young musicians weren't out there, but he introduced me to a lot of talented young musicians, and who wasn't working. So I said, okay. If you can put a band together, I'll get back out there, and then like now they call it the new Cosmic Echoes, and because Doug, I really love creative talent, and because the world needs that, and because like you say, everything is so plastic now, and you can't, that's not going to inspire anyone to do anything. So I just try to, and that's his sister doing the singing. And actually, she graduated from the same school I did, Morgan State, and guitarist Samir, he's great, and bass players, right now we haven't found exactly the right one, but at least we always use a good bass player when we go on tour, though.
Yeah, to say you've recently been over here and you've done quite an extensive UK tour over the last month, and I was unlucky. I actually missed your tour this time round, but I'd say I saw you back in February, which was absolutely brilliant. And when are you going to come back to the UK?
I hope in is it January, February, probably February or March, because I think they already got one concert somewhere. I forgot, but. So maybe we can hook up Ronnie Scott's and the whole bit, and because like I said, man, the UK and London that's one of my favorite places. So, and because I used to come over, I used to hang out over there, after doing shows, and so I always like to hang out in London.
Yeah, because you've written a song for us over here, London Interlude.
That was it. I went back. And I did this record, Rejuvenation, and I said, and the song just came to me. But now we do it a little bit different, but it works because the musicians like it, and the drummer, he loves it. So he said he wanted to play something against what we play something and then he'll solo, and so and it works.
Yeah, because when you were over here back in the 80s, and I found this quote in I don't know if you ever remember actually saying this quote. It was on the Robbie Vincent Soul Show, and your quote was, "Jazz funk is the music of the moment, and is happening here first in the UK." Do you remember saying that?
Hey, like I told you, you mentioned. I was trying to think of those guys. It was Robbie Benson, and then I forget. It was a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt great the last time. Because I did the BBC. A few weeks ago when I was over there, and they took me by Jazz FM.
Yeah, that's right. That's where Robbie is.
Right. So, it seemed like London, I don't know, I got a good feeling about London. Something big is getting ready to happen because it seems like it's going back. It's coming, all that things that was used to go on in the 70s and early 80s. Seems like there's a big rejuvenation that's happening in London right now.
Yeah, there is. There's so many soul clubs coming out. There's, opening up. There's so many weekenders. There's so much going on here at the moment. You actually can't keep up with it now.
Yeah, I mean, I got a great feeling about London. I mean, London getting ready to do something again. So, I definitely want to definitely be just in the middle of all of that because I know London. The guy just won the tennis thing at Wimbledon. I don't know. London is on the verge of something. I don't know what y'all getting ready to do, but it feels good.
Yeah, we just had Europe's largest jazz festival here, the Love Supreme Festival, and
my goodness,
that was absolutely brilliant. We had people like Esmeralda Spalding over, obviously Marcus Miller, Gregory Porter, and there were so many great jazz artists. Sorry.
When was that?
That was back in July. It was in it's quite close to where I live. I live in Sussex, and it was in a little little village called Glynde, out in the middle of the middle of nowhere, and it was absolutely fantastic festival. And it was.
Well, I got to try to get on that next year then. Wow.
Yeah, no, you got to because it was brilliant. It was an amazing weekend, and there's some great acts there, and it was really good because you had two tents with acts on, then you had the main stage. So at one time you had 3 different acts on playing different things. So you could flick through loads of different artists, and they had loads of different types of genres of jazz being played there. So you had you had your bebop, you had some really modern jazz, which is almost bordering on top of like electronic dance music. It was absolutely amazing stuff that was being played there.
What festival did they call that?
They call it the Love Supreme Jazz Festival.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna get someone to check on that for me. Okay.
Yeah. Oh no, we'd love to see you there. That'd be brilliant.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's good. That's the kind of festival you want. Because you want to hear all the different types.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do, I'll try and find the links to it, and I'll email or send them across to you.
Okay, hey, I appreciate that. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, I'll try and find that for you because I've got the details somewhere, so I'll do that for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you got any plans on recording any new material at all?
Yeah, I think we're going to do that because I got a new arrangement of A God in the Peas because that done took off. The kids heard the sample. I mean, now it's all over the world. Japan, because I was in Japan and they started requesting it. I said, wow. So we want to do that. And we got a new arrangement of, what's the song? We Can Dream. And got a new arrangement of, what's another one we do? Boom, boom, Renaissance. But it's a little bit funkier. So, I mean, I want to do that so I hope to have all that done by the next time, I come back over.
So you say you're coming back over in February, so we can look forward.
February or March, I hope, right? Because they're supposed to be working on that. So
right, I'll say we look forward to seeing you again because I say I saw you a lot, Ronnie Scott's. I've seen you a few times, as I said, but obviously the biggest one was the Nebworth Soul Festival back in the 80s, and I was just a very, very, very young lad then, and
all right,
a little bit older now.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, you were next time. Well, now you can just come by and we start talking. Okay.
I'd love to. The other thing I was going to say to you is you recorded a tribute to Miles Davis in Mystic Dreamer.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just these songs just come and I thought about Miles and because people, like you said, people just don't realize how talented he was, and he was so candid and so honest on and off the stage, so that just made the musician stronger. And so like when you left Miles, there wasn't nothing else to do but start your own group. And so when mystical dreamer, he definitely was he could be mystical. And so I said, okay, this will work.
Yeah. Oh no, as I say, what a musician, what a man. It was absolutely amazing, wasn't he?
Yeah. Hi, this is Lonnie Liston Smith, and you are listening to Doug Chant on Sound Fusion Radio.
Well, can I say on behalf of all our listeners, I'd like to say a big thank you for letting me interview you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've certainly learned a lot, and hopefully our audience have learned quite a bit about you. And as I say, absolute pleasure, and you're a legend over here. Absolute.
Oh, I appreciate that, Doug. And then stay in touch, man. Send me emails and things, and just stay in touch with me. Let me know what's happening.
Yeah, we'll do. Yes, and we'll definitely let you know what's happening with our radio station as well, because we are a growing radio station. Our audience is getting bigger, so we're quite enjoying it at the moment.
All right, then. Okay, then. All right, I look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lonnie.
Okay, Doug.
Okay, cheers then. Goodbye. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.